I remember the moment my mom first let me get Instagram. It was my 10th birthday, and I felt so grown and ecstatic to finally get to see what everyone else is doing. I started posting funny pictures and videos on my story and this post, and I grew my following from the people at my school. Over time, though, I started realizing that not everyone was posting their true, authentic self. Some of my peers would only post the glory parts of their lives and make it out to be like that was their whole life. Some would even take photos from other people from other sites like Pinterest and post those as their own to hide behind. This grew their following, so I decided that it was how it was supposed to be. Many years and posts and followers later, I'm still puzzled by this idea of posting only the better parts of you or concealing your actual personality for a greater following. Soon after, I discovered that at school I couldn't present myself how I wanted to in person because of my clothes or physical appearance or money, whatever the issue. But I was able to online. When I made my account public, I finally figured out that if I couldn't control how people saw me in real life, I can change how they view me via a post or my profile. This changed the game for me. Even though I too follow this trend of posting a perfect life on display to show off to everyone, I continue to wonder why this is the trend rather than projecting our true selves online. Stats and how it's trending. One question I had when writing this paper was, why does my generation, Gen Z, especially feel the need to have a social media presence, which is around 90%. As of September 2025, Instagram has over 3 billion monthly users. These numbers are no surprise to me. After all, Gen Z is called the I generation because of our upbringing with technology. Could 90% of Gen Z be so immersed in social media because that's how we were raised? Or is there some underlying reason for this? The NIH did a study on Instagram and its relation to one's self-liking, personality, daily internet use, and Instagram addiction. They found that agreeableness and conscientiousness and self-liking are negatively associated with an Instagram addiction, meaning these types of people tend to have lower levels of Instagram addiction. However, those who use the internet daily have a positive association with an Instagram addiction, which means they're more likely to show signs of an addiction. Not to say that the conscientious people are less addicted because they have better discipline, but because they tend to like themselves more, which protects them from the need to have such high use of social media. The more you accept yourself, the less dependent on social media one tends to be. This research explains how issues with individualism and collectivism are at the root of social media nowadays. Those who are conscientious and self-liking can abstain from the pressure of collectivism, wanting to be part of a bigger something, because they are more at peace with themselves and how they receive and put out media. However, those who are a bit more insecure and needy of acceptance tend to be the ones buying into the collectivism of social media and abandoning their own personal values in order to fit in. These are the ones who become addicted to Instagram to be able to make up for some of that worth and be seen as valuable to those who they seek it from. Representation in other media. Social media has become so worldly that it is used in countless modern films and TV shows. It's such a natural thing now for one to wake up in the morning and immediately check their phone for notifications and scroll a bit. I've even seen it done many times in this type of media. Productions and corporations are so quick to capitalize on this idea of social media to gain a greater audience. If they produce a show that is relatable to the rising generations, then they can make more money. Some productions even create real Instagram accounts for their fictional characters to resonate and gain more traction with the relevant population. This itself blurs the line between reality and fiction by bringing fiction into reality. To continue, social media portrayal in many shows can be harmful to their viewers. Even if they're not portraying a directly negative idea, a lot of the time it shows a perfect world in a sense. It presents unrealistic standards about the world that kids and teenagers most often can't relate to. In such formative years, children are looking for acceptance and community, so turning on their favorite show with the people they look up to, only to see how imperfect their lives are compared to it, wires a part of their brain to want to try to live up to these standards even more. The constant exposure to perfectionism often leads to feelings of inadequacy, and therefore they try to make up for this pressure by creating a better life than they seem to have. Real life personalities versus accounts. As I mentioned in the introduction, people tend to portray a different persona online to their Instagram accounts versus how they actually are in real life, myself included. Dr. Jose supports this claim in an article by The Chicago. Some people use their social media to create something that they are not. He says, explaining that the virtual world can distract people so much from their real lives that they either forget who they are or become so involved in the reality they've created that they don't know. Dr. Jose supports this claim in an article by The Chicago. Some people use their social media to create something that they are not. He says, explaining that the virtual world can distract people so much from their real lives that they either forget who they are or become so involved in the reality they've created that they don't want to work on their own issues. Social media can ultimately create a false sense of reality. Because social media has become so prominent in our lives, it's a pretty thin line between reality and what's fake, and that affects how we interact with people in our real lives. In her thesis, Being Real, Gen Z Self-Presentation and Authenticity on Social Media, Maya Elizabeth Neufeld-Wall shares her take on the realness of Instagram and the more modernized tradition of posting. She explains how Gen Z is now starting to post more realer content compared to past generations, where they would post more edited versions of their lives. But she poses the question of just how real the post is to the population creating and consuming it. She continues by saying that the word authenticity is ever-changing with Gen Z, and doesn't really hold one true definition of the word too long to apply this any one way. Oh my god, what am I saying right there? She explains how Gen Z is now starting to post more realer content compared to past generations, where they would post more edited versions of their lives. But she poses the question of just how real the post is to the population creating and consuming it. She continues by saying that the word authenticity is ever changing with the Gen Z and doesn't really hold one true definition of the word for too long to actually apply this to their peers and accept. She continues by saying that the word authenticity is ever changing with Gen Z and doesn't really hold one true definition of the word for too long to actually apply this to their peers and expect them to portray this well enough. Though social media brings a lot of community to people, those same interactions tend to hurt us in actuality. It affects our confidence in real life versus online. We have so much more confidence online to say whatever we please and tend to be more cowardly when it comes to certain conversations in person. Because we have screen protecting us, we often feel that's an excuse to create ourselves differently, whether it's how you want to portray yourself or only a part of yourself you give away. It's very rare to have someone's whole personality online nowadays. Spam accounts. A recent trend among those around my age is spam accounts. A spam account essentially is just a second account where people tend to post more niche ideas of themselves. Some have their spam accounts public as a way to just have silly or fun things about them, to keep their main account a certain character. However, those who create a private spam account usually let more of themselves out there, only for the closest friends they truly trust, like me. To the right is my main account, where I portray a certain persona on there, one that is a bit more professional. It portrays my more serious side, where I just want to show myself off. It's very articulated and precise in my highlights that I curate to go with the vibes I want to give off that time. I only have 4 posts on this account, with 3 being completely public, but 1 being for close friends, which is a little bit more personalized, but still to a certain taste. On my left is my spam account. It's very different from my main, with far fewer followers, less articulated highlights, and way more posts that have basically no motive to them besides just updating people in my life. In her thesis, Newfield Wall also did her own research on spam or Finsta accounts. She found that 3 reasons people participate in this are because they felt they could be more authentic in a few ways. To quote, first, the account was used to communicate to a smaller, more niche audience, and participants noted that they felt more comfortable posting spontaneously, utilizing humor, and posting about gossip and events going on in their real lives, more so than they could on their main Instagram account. Unquote. Between these 2 accounts, you can tell which I spend more time on and how I truly portray myself. My spam is more of a life story, while my main is just a way of expressing myself in a more artistic way. However, if one were to just view my main profile, as many of my followers do, they'd assume this was my whole life. The glamorous part, where I'm posting and being happy, is just another way to say you can't believe everything you say online, especially about someone's life. Conclusion. Social media, or Instagram in this case, is a continuously growing trend in our current society. We can't fight it, so we'll have to learn to live with it. However, the way in which we live with it is something in our control. We don't have to depend on Instagram to be popular or relevant. We don't have to keep track of what people say about another person for us to be happy. We don't have to put out a perfect life on social media for people to like us. Our true community comes from being our authentic selves, and that's where you'll find your people who adore and value you. Once we learn to break away from this expectation that social media feeds you to fit in, we break away from the capitalism, socialism, and collectivism that come with this social media presence.